Hey guys and gals, it's Mr. Veeth. Hey, welcome back to our videos. Remember when we do our videos, I need you to have your notebook out and I need you to have your pencil out and you need to be following along with the videos with me as I am going through it. Okay, remember, you can pause me, stop me, start me, rewind me, anything that you need to do to make sure that you are grasping the knowledge that getting ready to go over. Okay, so the importance of this, just like I told your parents, is the fact that we're able to do some of the learning at home so that when you get to school, we can do more of the practice and more of the hard work with it so we can really make sure we're understanding it. That way, when it comes time to homework that we can also hopefully get done at school, you can ask any questions that you might have. So it's super important that you are bringing your math notebook home and that you are bringing any other things that you might need. Okay, so please make sure you're following along with this. All right, so we are jumping into the wonderful world of division. Okay, when we start with this, we are going to do as we've done with every chapter. We kind of start with kind of like a powers of 10 type of lesson. So I'm going to show you how we're going to divide by powers of 10. This is not using any partial quotient or area model method. This is not using anything like that. We are going to be able to do this using our basic fact skill knowledge and using our understanding of place value. Okay, so it sometimes can be a little hard to understand. So let's watch the video, make sure we get what we're doing a little bit, and then tomorrow or the next time I see you, we will make sure that we're really uncovering some of the knowledge that we're trying to grab. Okay, so make sure you have your pencil and your notebook handy, and I'm going to go ahead and flip to the screen. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to title it, this is 5-1 for our unit, and we are using patterns and mental math. That just means kind of basic fact knowledge in our head to divide. Okay, so there's a couple different things that you can do when you choose to divide. Okay, now when we get to actually real division, we're actually doing the harder numbers without zeros, where this is going to be more, not, I want to say, I don't want to call it a shortcut, but it's a little bit easier to do. It's a lot less work. But when we get to do that, we'll be using those kind of methods. With this, we're going to be using a lot of patterns. What do we see? How does it work? Okay, so I'm going to show you this, and there's not necessarily anything to write down or steps or notes, but it's going to be practice problems, and I'll kind of walk through the practice problem. Okay, so let's just say that we have 360 divided by 40. Okay, so when we look at this number, we're going to look at this number and we're going to think to ourselves, when I do this, I want to think to myself, I want to try to, what I've told you before, find the basic fact. Okay, so kind of look through it, and where do you see a basic fact? Well, I see the number 4 in 40, and basically what this means is 4 tenths. I have 4 tenths. Okay, here I see 36. Okay, and because I have the 0 behind it, I have 36 tenths. Okay, so if we think about it like this, we can see these numbers are a little bit smaller. We have 36 and 4, and I bet you can think of a basic fact when it comes to division, what 36 divided by 4 is. Now, what we cannot do is we cannot remove the word 10. Basically, what we did is instead of putting the 0, we put a 10 there. So we have 36 tenths divided by 4 tenths. Okay, so when I go to do this, well, what is 36 divided by 4? Well, I know 36 divided by 4 is 9. Okay, now if I'm dividing tens by tens, so if I divide the tens by the tens, what that basically does is those kind of cancel out. They're done. They're gone. If I was going to do it up here, look what happens. If I have 36 divided by 4, I know that's 9. What's 0 divided by 0? The 0 by 0, they cancel out. It turns into nothing. So if it had 1 0 on this side, you can cancel 1 0 on this side. Okay, they cancel each other out. It kind of balances out the equation. So my answer here is 9. Now, how can I know if I'm right? What could I do to figure out if I'm right? Well, I could take my answer, 9, and I could do the opposite, multiply by the number 40. And if I do that, because of fact families, I should get 360. So 9 times 4 is 36. With multiplication, if I have that 0, I know I add it on, so I have 360. So 9 times 4 is 36. Add the 1 0 for 360 to make it 10 times larger. Okay? So that's kind of what we're going to do. We're just going to do a whole bunch of practice problems with it. Okay? Now, I will tell you, in the end here, all of our problems are going to work out nicely. Not all problems do. Some problems will have to use estimation. We're not there yet. So today's lesson will always have numbers that work out fairly nicely. Okay? So I'm just going to do some problems. And this is kind of like, this is the first method. And then I will show you another way to possibly do it if your division skills aren't what they need to be. Now, the other thing you probably need to do is get your fact sheet out if you need it. Okay? Now, if you don't know your multiplication facts, that's going to be hard for division. So make sure you get that out, and you can use a multiplication chart to do the division facts as well. It just kind of works its way backwards. Okay, so let's do another practice problem. And I'll make the problem. Let's go 320. Go even bigger. 3,200 divided by 80. Okay, so when we're doing this, I want you to kind of think to yourself, okay, and I'll kind of leave the 10s out this time. What is the basic fact? So the first thing I'm going to tell you to do is underline the basic fact. Underline a basic fact that you see. So I see 32 and 8, and that's what we're going to do first. We're going to divide 32 by 8. Okay, so 32 by 8 is 4. Okay, now keep in mind, this isn't just the number 32. I just didn't forget the zeros, because technically when I see 32, I need to be thinking 32 what? Well, because I have 2 zeros behind there, 2 zeros, think about it, would be in what place value? Would be the hundreds. So I have 32 hundreds here divided by 8 tens. That's kind of what I'm doing. But as long as you understand it, I'm not going to necessarily make you write it out. The book, however, will have some stuff like that, and I can show it to you. So find your basic fact and underline it. Okay, so 32 divided by 8. So we solved it. We have 4. Okay. When you go to do this, I'm going to talk you through this step first on how this works. And then once you understand how it works, we can kind of write out what we will do here. Well, notice this has 2 zeros. This has 1 0. So when you're dividing zeros, zeros are going to cancel each other out. Okay. Notice they're on opposite sides of the equation, or of the division sign. I have 1 0 here and I have 2 zeros there. Okay. What I can do is if I actually go to divide zeros, so if you did it this way, like, so say there's a 0. So they say that's 100. You don't have to write this down. Just watch. 100 divided by 10. Okay. Just using the zeros. And if I did that, what would be my answer? My answer would be 10. And it basically looks like I just lost one of the zeros. It looks like I took away one of the zeros to make 10 divided by 1 to then get 10. So basically kind of what happens when you're going to divide by a power of 10 number, that 0 cancels out the other 0. So basically what we're doing is we're going to look on this side. How many zeros do I have? I have 1. How many zeros on this side? I have 2. Well, how many zeros can I cancel out? How many divide out into each other? They kind of divide into each other. There's going to be 1. So I'm going to cancel this 0 out. And because of that, I'm going to cancel this 0 out. Okay. Well, how many zeros do I have left? I have 1 0 left. So that's the 0 that goes there, because that's how many more times I have. Okay. So I'm going to cancel out all zeros you can. Kind of went into my rules there. And then 3, place all remaining zeros in your answer. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, this is a shortcut, okay? This is a complete and utter shortcut, and I'm not opposed to shortcuts as long as you understand what you're doing. Why are we canceling out the zeros? So why step 2? Canceling out the zeros, all we're basically doing is dividing them. And when you divide the 0 by the 0, okay, when you divide the tens by the, the ones by the ones, that cancels out. The zeros are going to cancel each other out, okay? With 1 0 left, that means my 32 that I underlined, it's really 10 times greater, right? Since I have a 0 still here, that wasn't 32 that I underlined, it was 320. So in order to do that, I have to make my number 10 times larger, which is why I add that 0 back on. Okay. It might seem confusing when I'm talking about it, trying to explain it, but the doing of it's really pretty easy. Okay. What if I tried 2100 divided by, let's go 70. Okay. So let's go by our first step. First step tells us to do what? It tells us to underline the basic fact. So what basic fact do you see here? I see 21 divided by 7. Okay. So I'm going to make my caret. I'm going to go, what's 21 divided by 7? Well, if you know your facts, 21 divided by 7 is 3. Okay. Well, then I'm going to go to number 2. Cancel out all zeros. So I'm going to look over here. How many zeros do I have on 70? I have 1. How many zeros do I have over here? I have 2. So this is 10 times larger. This is 100 times larger than the actual number, than the basic fact that I found. Okay. So then I know I can cancel out the zeros. How many zeros can I cancel out, though? I can only cancel out 1 0 because there's only 1 on this side. If there were 2 on this side, then I could do that. So I'm going to cancel him out and him out. So if you look, I'm left with 1 0 right there. So that 0, when I may underline my 21, it's technically 210. So that 0 made him 210 times larger. So your answer is 10 times larger. So rule 3 says place all remaining zeros in your answer. That's the remaining 0. He's left over, so I'm going to put him here. Okay? So his answer is 30. Now, if the 0 was on this side, we cannot do that. Okay? So it's only when it's your dividend. Place all remaining zeros in, and I'm even going to change this, from your dividend. So from the bigger number, from your dividend. Okay? So that's going to be an important part. If there ever happens to be extra zeros over here, it cannot work that way. Okay? I don't know if the book will do that to you this time, but they'll eventually will. All right, let's do another problem. Let's go 8,000 divided by 400. Okay? So what is our answer here? Well, first off, we want to underline the basic fact. Basic fact, I'm just going to underline the 8 divided by the 4. Notice I'm leaving off all my zeros. So I'm looking at this, and I'm kind of looking at it as just a basic fact problem instead of an 8,000 problem. Okay, that's why I have rule 2s and 3 in place for canceling out zeros and then putting the remainder zeros on. So if I have 8,000 divided by 4,000, or by 400, I'm sorry. First, I'm going to find the basic fact. I know 8 divided by 4 is 2. I know it's 2. Okay. When I look over here, though, how many zeros did I leave off? I left off 2. How many zeros are over here? 3. So how many zeros would cancel each other out? When I go to divide those zeros, how many would cancel into nothing? And that's what would happen. When you divide 0 and 0, it's nothing. So you're canceling them out. Okay, so I'm going to cancel 1 out and 1 out. Can I cancel any more? Yes, I can. And you always start from the back. Cancel, cancel. So again, how many zeros are left? 1 0 is left, so then he put it on here. Because again, this is the big idea. This is what makes sense about it. If you have 1 0, that means he was not 8, but he was 80. So technically you did 80 divided by 4, which would be 20. Well, to just make it easy, that's why we do the basic fact, and then whatever 0 is left, we know we got to make that 10 times larger for the answer to be 20. Okay? What if I have 600 divided by 300? So again, kind of the same thing. Underline your basic fact. I make my caret to connect. 6 divided by 3 is 2. I have 2 zeros over here and 2 zeros over here. How many zeros cancel out? 2 over here, 2 over here. I have no zeros left, so my answer, 6 divided by 3, is 2. That's it. 600 divided by 300. And if you really wanted to see if that worked, well, let's go. 300 times 2 equals 600. So you can see that clearly works. So you can always use multiplication to check your work. Okay, let's try more. Let's see if we did 3,500 divided by, let's say 500. Okay, let's see what happens here. Okay, so here, I'm going to underline my basic fact. So what's my division? What's my basic fact division problem? 35 divided by 5. Well, 35 divided by 5, if you know your facts, is 7. And then again, I have 2 zeros over here, 2 zeros over here. My answer is 7. But now we're going to try the same problem. Okay? Well, maybe not. Let's not, because I don't want to confuse you. Okay? Let's continue on. Let's do one more with this method. Okay? Let's say we have 81,000 divided by 90. Let's do that. Do 90. So again, what's your first thought here? What are you going to do first? Underline the basic fact. So you're going to underline 81 divided by 9. So basically what you're saying is you have 81 and you left 3 zeros. So tens, hundreds, thousands. You have 81 thousands. That's how many 81s you have. You have 1,000 81s. Okay. Here you have 9 tens. Because again, how many zeros are in a 10? 1. How many zeros are in 1,000? 3. That's how I'm getting that. Okay. So if I wanted to write this, you don't have to write this. 81 thousands divided by 9 tens. That's technically what we're doing. That's where we're getting the 81 and we're getting the 9. Okay. But we know 81 divided by 9 is 9. Now, we know in the thousands, there are 3 zeros, and in the tens, there are 1. So 1 0 here is going to cancel out, which leaves 2 zeros left. So I have to make them 2 zeros bigger, which we know is 100 times bigger. So my answer is 900. Okay, so that is going to be the main way we're going to do it. There is another way to knock this out, and it's kind of using the reverse method to think multiplication. Okay, it's kind of the same way we would have done it, but I do think this way works the best, and so I don't want to necessarily confuse you too much. So I think I'll show you the multiplication at school, and if you like it, great. If you don't worry about it. Okay, but as long as you know that this method seems to work the best, so I think I'll kind of use that method and just let you guys relax with that one. Okay, so let's do one more. Let's say again. I'm just going to title it examples. So say I have 2,400 divided by 80. So when you do it, if you did it multiplication, you could kind of think 8 times what gives you 24. That's what you would do. Okay, it's the same thing though. So I'm going to underline basic fact, 24 divided by 8. 24 divided by 8 is 3. I have 1 0 on this side, 2 on this side. So how many am I allowed to cross out? Just 1. This cancels. The 0 here and the 1s, the 0 here and the 1s. I'm left with 1 0 here, which makes it 10, makes my basic fact 10 times larger. So I need to make my answer 10 times larger. My answer is 30. Okay. Any questions for that? Make sure you bring them to me tomorrow so I can better assist you. But this is going to be the first step into our division. Again, it's fairly easy, especially if you know your basic facts. But it gives us a basis and a foundation of how to do quicker powers of 10 division. Okay, I hope this video helps.